Here's a demo on how to refine your forms once they've gotten to leather hard. You don't want to do this when they're too soft. So here, you can see when I press on it, it doesn't indent. Take the metal rib, the flat side, and you're going to scrape the surface. And that's going to kind of get rid of those high points and even out that form and get it kind of nice and smooth. The rib will collect material, so like you just saw, just make sure you flake that off of it ever so often to make sure you have a clean utensil and a clean tool to use. So just keep doing this all around the surface. If you have one of the shear forms like I showed you, this is it, you can use that to kind of take it and kind of grate the surface like you would cheese. And this can kind of really, if you have anything that's a lot of high points and really uneven, you can really kind of refine that shape fairly quickly with this. It will leave a texture. So after, and you can see there's the texture, and when you're done with it all the way around, you use your metal rib tool again on that flat side and go ahead and scrape it and get that texture off. So make sure you have a ring so you can set it down and work on it, and you just rotate it back and forth, up and down, and just smooth out that rough texture from the shear form. If you don't have a shear form, you can just use your rib and it'll suffice. Once you're done with that, if you have a nice rubber rib or something smaller or softer, you can then kind of go over the surface and compress that surface, smooth it out once more, and get rid of any kind of irregularities. So here you can see I'm almost completely done, and it still has a little bit of kind of grooves and irregularities on the surface. After that, I'll take a sponge and I'll get it just barely wet at all. Make sure I get all the water out of it. You really don't want to add much water to this at all, if any. So what I do is I just take the sponge and I kind of very softly and very lightly go over the surface, and that can get rid of any irregularities, bumps, scrapes, scratches, things like that. And once I got the surface pretty good, I will go through again with this nice soft rib and compress and smooth that out. With the sponge, depending on what kind of sponge you're using, sometimes a sponge can leave sponge marks, and it'll kind of give this kind of groggy looking surface. And then you can just use the rib again. And if you don't have one of these nice soft red ribs, just use your metal one and just go very lightly. And at the end, you want to make sure you poke another hole in it, because through this whole process, that hole is going to get covered up. So make sure you poke another hole in it, make sure its top is visible, set it back onto the ring that you created for it. And that ring and the sphere should be about the same stiffness. And then you're going to wrap it in plastic. If it's starting to dry out quite a bit, go ahead and give it a good spritz with the water spray guns that we have near the sink. Then wrap it up very tightly and set it back on your shelf.